So I'm just going to talk about the sight words and kind of your testing or practicing. So it's getting the child to be aware if they need to do more studying or not. So one thing you do at the very beginning, so at this session, so we already worked on was, want, who. Do you think you're ready to spell these words? And if the child says yes, then you say, okay, so here's the rules. It's not a bad thing if you don't know how to spell it. I want you to try to spell it, and if you don't know, I want you to stop. Rather than spelling it wrong, we're going to learn it again. So I'd rather them have good practice and good writing practice. So as you're going in, the first word is was, and that's the word they have to spell, so they go to write it, and then they're not sure, and they go, I'm not sure. So then you say, okay, we'll just wait. I'm happy you told, so you keep encouraging them. I'm happy you told me that you need to study a little bit more. You need to think about the word a little more. You need a little bit more practice. And then all you do is talk about the letter shape. Go right through the sequence again. So then the first thing is wa. So you have the water sound, wa. You can hear that. And zzz at the end of the word. The S makes a microphone sound, the zzz sound. So you talk with the shape. And then say, let's use this to tell a story. I was happy that you asked for help. Now let's trace the word. Z, and you encourage them to look at this as they trace the letters. And after that, then you say, are you ready to spell your word now? Right? Because they thought about it, they stored it, they see the shape of it, and then they get to practice writing it correctly. Okay, so let's do our spelling word again. Then you bring the spelling word out, you hide this one. Okay, so the first word is was. And it's all right if they do immediate practice. So they just saw it, they just thought about it, and they practice writing it. For data tracking of their written language, so what I would like you to do is go through the words. So the 3 words, so you write the date at the top of the page per, so maybe it's March 17th, 2021. So this is all data tracking purposes to know how much the child's learning. So you number 1, 2, 3, and then they stopped right there. So the first one you would see is was. So if they're going to write was and they forgot the last sound, you just stop it right there and say, okay, we'll come back and learn that one after. Never discourage them from saying they're not sure how to spell it. I would rather encourage them and say, I'm really happy. It just means we need to study a little more. And it's good skills for the child to learn how to study more or know their weaknesses. So it's a practice test for them. And it's teaching versus testing. So I'd rather than guessing and getting it wrong, spell it correctly. So anyway, so you move on to the next one. Okay, the next word is want. And they go to start writing and they want. Okay, they write it. Okay, and last word that you have to write is who. So maybe they spell it like this. And then you have that data, and the rest of the session, you just track. So from that, they have 1 correct. So for sight word practice, for that date, you would just have negative plus negative for those 3 words, and that's all you would track the data. So you're not going to add new words at the beginning next time because they're not ready. They're not at that 85 to 100% accuracy of it. So that's all right, and that just shows over time how much better they're getting and how many more words they're adding. So then the next thing you do after they have this type of spelling thing, let's talk about the shapes of the words. So you go through all 3 things. And the first thing you do is you teach the words, pictures, talk about the pictures, WH questions start with the WH, and then who is like an owl sound. So who do you know? And then you get them to use the word in a sentence, and then you get them to trace the word after the adult. So those are all the teaching techniques. And then after that, you can say, are you ready to practice writing this word? This isn't data you're tracking with this. This is just the teaching parts of it, right? So you only track the data at the very beginning of every session where you say, are you ready to spell your words? And if they say yes, then you track data on it. So the 3 words, or maybe the 5 words they're working on, maybe the 7 words, and they go to write it. And then after they're done writing each of the words, or if they stop, and you can move on and say, okay, we'll teach that one today, don't worry about it. But you still track data as that's a negative score. So you track data only at the beginning, and the rest of the time should be spent teaching the words. We're not testers, we're teachers in these activities, so that's how I'd like these words presented. So you only test at the very beginning, and the rest of the time should be spent teaching the child the words using those 3 techniques. First, you teach it using the mnemonic cues or the picture cues. Second, they use it in the word in a sentence. Third, they trace it following the adult. And that is how I'd like you to work on written sight word practice. Thank you.